2024 is almost upon us, and the world is in a perpetual state of conflict and war. Though you may not feel it where you're from, for countries around the world it is a daily reality. Whether it's the ongoing civil war in Myanmar with citizens fighting for freedom, the ongoing conflicts in the Middle East with a clash of nations, an all-out Russian invasion of Ukraine, heightening NATO tensions, or the prolonged narco war in Mexico. In this video, we will dive into the wars and conflicts across the world occurring in our modern age. As always, please leave a like and subscribe for more intriguing videos on our channel. We appreciate your support. Let us know in the comments what you think of this video. Diving into the first country on our list is the notorious Mexican drug war. The Mexican drug war is an ongoing conflict between the Mexican government and the violent drug trafficking cartels. It is estimated that the war on drugs has led to at least 350,000 deaths, with more than 72,000 people still missing from January 2006 to May 2021. The U.S. Congress has made demands for military intervention to put down the cartels for good. Mexican officials have strongly opposed this solution. But with the ongoing flood of drugs being smuggled over into the United States and the drug money pouring into the cartels' pockets, one thing is certain: the deaths from the narco war will not let up anytime soon. In the last 3 years alone, 250,000 Americans have lost their lives in the deadliest drug crisis in history. In time, perhaps there will be a permanent solution to dismantle the cartels for good, but for now the idea is to save as many lives as possible. A solution is desperately needed for the next country on our list, Nigeria. Nigeria has been facing a terrorist insurgency for the past several years now. Nigeria's southern states have been confronted with occasional outbreaks of violence. Banditry and cultism were among the main sources of insecurity, along with increasing electoral violence. There have been over 150 events involving cult militias in 2022, resulting in nearly 230 reported fatalities. In the southeast, a separatist insurgency launched by the indigenous people of Biafra intensified, resulting in a string of attacks against security forces and electoral officials. Overall, Nigeria remains one of the most violent countries in Africa as of last year. It is estimated that the number of political violence events have increased by 9% during this period, with approximately 3,900 fatalities resulting from violence targeting civilians. International concern has risen in the worry about Nigeria's stability for its citizens as militias continue to strain the country's future. The Democratic Republic of Congo also worries for its future. The presence of over 100 armed groups engaging in multiple conflicts over territorial and resource control continued to create instability in the Democratic Republic of the Congo. Political violence events remained concentrated in the eastern region in 2022, driven by political rivalries, land disputes, mineral interests, and foreign intervention. The M23, an armed group formed in 2012 and primarily made up of Rwanda-phone Tutsi rebels, re-emerged as a prominent conflict actor in 2022. With a nearly 30-fold increase in activity compared to the year prior. An increasing number of investigations have linked the recent growth of the M23 to backing from Rwanda, intensifying tensions in the Great Lakes region. This has soured relation between the Congo and Rwanda. The UN has been trying to step in to alleviate tensions and return stability to the citizens of Congo. Another African country facing internal conflicts is South Sudan. Ethnic violence in South Sudan has a long history among South Sudan's varied ethnic groups. South Sudan has 64 tribes, with the largest being the Dinkas, who constitute about 35% of the population and predominate the members in government. The second largest are the Nuers. Conflict is often aggravated among nomadic groups over the issue of cattle and grazing land, and is part of the wider Sudanese nomadic conflict. South Sudan has endured multiple civil wars over the past decade and recently has fallen victim to militias attacking settlements, killing dozens and destroying a number of villages. South Sudan's ethnic violence may be homegrown. However, it has sparked international concern for humanitarian aid to the country and its people, who are paying the ultimate price. In the Far East lies another raging conflict. In the face of continued armed and unarmed resistance to the coup it set in motion 2 years ago, the Myanmar military has increasingly resorted to targeting civilians as it fails to consolidate control over the country. Civilians have been targeted not only on the ground but also through increased military airstrikes. Against the backdrop of ongoing civilian targeting, armed resistance forces that emerged after the coup have moved forward with strengthening alliances amongst themselves and with long-established ethnic resistance groups, engaging the military in battles across the country. With more than 9,000 political violent events taking place, and the military's refusal to relinquish power, and the severe violence they continue to direct at civilian populations, to keep that power means they are unlikely to adhere to any promises of reform. With the military's ongoing targeting of those who resist its rule, 2024 will likely be a year of even further violence in Myanmar. The hope is that a peaceful resolution can be found as soon as possible to prevent further loss of human life, or the government relinquishes its power. Another armed conflict is continuing to gain momentum in the Middle East, with the country of Afghanistan being taken over by the infamous terrorist group, the Taliban. The US and UN withdrawal from Afghanistan in 2021 signaled to the Taliban to immediately retake control of the country, leaving behind state-of-the-art military equipment for the insurgents to arm itself to that of a small westernized military. War between the Taliban and other factions, including ISIL-K, which bombed the airport in Kabul during US evacuations, continues. Estimates say that Afghanistan has experienced more than 2,700 casualties in 2022. Human and civil rights concerns have been raised as the rights of women under the regime have been sent back decades. Troubled times are on the rise for the ordinary citizens of Afghanistan as their fight against the Taliban continues. As it is unlikely any neighboring or external intervention will intervene to restore order to the situation as a power vacuum has emerged. One of the most well-known conflicts in the Middle East is making headlines once more. A centuries-old struggle for control over the Holy Land. This is the Israeli-Palestinian conflict. The US sent naval vessels to monitor the situation and to deter other countries from getting involved. While rocket attacks continue in the struggle for peace, hostages have been taken on both sides during the strife. However, recently, there have been a number of them released to alleviate tensions. The conflict originates back to that of medieval Jerusalem. However, the conflict really blew up after the conclusion of both the First and Second World Wars. With the British pulling out of the Middle East and a shaky foundation to a sovereign state solution presiding over the land of Palestine and Israel, tensions have reached an all-time high. Such is the nature with war, the citizens are feeling the devastating effects of the military attacks. With protests around the world asking to put an end to hostilities, a peaceful solution is trying to be found to prevent further loss of life. Meanwhile, in southern Arabia, the civil war in Yemen continues. The war erupted in September 2014 when a tactical alliance between former President Ali Abdullah Saleh and the Houthis, a group of Shiite insurgents from the country's north, led to the takeover of the capital city of Sana'a. Among the deadliest conflicts of the 21st century, the war in Yemen has resulted in an estimated 158,000 reported fatalities from violence between January 2015 and December 2022, including over 15,700 civilians killed in direct attacks. Depending on the outcome of the diplomatic efforts, two scenarios can be envisioned. Should the talks fail to secure a truce renewal and an expansion of its conditions, the Houthis would likely resume their drone and missile attacks against Saudi Arabia and the UAE. On the domestic front, the conflict could pick up in Al-Dali, Marib, and Taiz, where clashes are currently ongoing. In the end, it seems the civil war show no signs of stopping soon as we head into 2024. We can speculate more violence will ensue in the coming months. The Syrian civil war is an ongoing violent conflict in Syria between pro-democratic insurgents and Syrian President Bashar al-Assad's long-standing dynastic regime. The war has been a source of significant instability in the Middle East since 2011. With the potential for the emergence of a power vacuum in Syria due to Russia's preoccupation with the war in Ukraine, Turkish President Recep Tayyip Erdogan renewed calls to establish a safe zone 30 kilometers deep into northern Syria. In 2018, the United Nations recorded almost 7 million Syrian refugees, nearly 40% of Syria's population that year. Most fled to Turkey and other regional allies, but hundreds of thousands have found asylum in Germany, the United States, and Canada. Several human rights organizations have called the Syrian civil war the worst humanitarian crisis of the 21st century. The last countries on our list are involved in the most recent war in Europe since World War II. The Ukrainian-Russian War. Following months of military buildup along the Ukrainian border, Russian forces launched a full-scale invasion on February 24, 2022. The expansion of armed conflict that followed led to the highest levels of violence recorded in 2022. The rise of violent events was accompanied by a staggering human cost, with Ukraine also ranking as the country with the highest reported fatality count last year. While battles may have slightly subsided during the winter period, they are likely to intensify again in the spring, as both Ukraine and Russia are reportedly preparing new military campaigns. Terrifying reality of drone warfare has been on full display during the war. Should Russia occupy new territories in 2024, more civilians will be at risk of war crimes, including abductions, forced displacement, forced mobilization, torture, sexual violence, and execution. While there are many ongoing issues around the world that we did not list this time round, we want to send our thoughts and condolences to all those affected in ongoing conflicts worldwide. We want to provide you, the viewer, the opportunity to help these human beings around the world touched by these struggles. Links are in the description to different charities and organizations that you can get involved in to help alleviate the hardship these men, women, and children are facing every day. Thank you for watching. Let us know what you think of our list in the comments and share your thoughts on these ongoing issues around the world. We want to hear from you. See you next time.